I think that's what I'm going to change my name to. But anyway, anyway. Right. Kairos. Now, Kairos sounds a pretentious word. It isn't actually. Let's be crystal clear. Although right, why do I make bits and bobs of film? Well, there is only one reason, which is I have a soon-to-be 24-year-old daughter who's a thinker. A thinker. Will be a thinker. And in fact, you see the kairos of it all, actually, it crystallized a few days ago with my 27-year-old mentoree. And he is. He's wonderful. We actually, even though I haven't seen him for about 3 years, we speak. We message. He is so wonderfully, healthily forthright. Okay, why do I start with a pretentious word like kairos? Kairos is not a pretentious word. Now, I'm fully aware of the work of many of the Greek philosophers. I'm just on the same kind of trajectory. But here's the thing. This is the really important bit. Now, why do I make this film? This is just in passing. Because if my daughter, who I hope has gone off to recreate herself in a country which didn't reject her actual DNA, I want her to see one day. Dad didn't go nuts, quite the reverse. Now I have 4 or 5 different little places where I just put certain different things in a slightly different way. Like, for example, like I got a couple of green or environmental sites, which I have never had time to fully roll out. But those are to reach a certain kind of person who would actually be intimidated by the word kairos. Kairos, I think it's largely true, is Ecclesiastes 3, all of Ecclesiastes 3 in one word. It's a wonderful word. Anyway, so I broadcast a few different versions of what I've been about. But what I've been about is not online, meaning you don't reach people. I've lived that for 10 years. Right, I'm going to get back to the grasshopper. Anyway, so I have slightly different versions scattered around to just, it's not manipulative, it's the exact opposite. It's to try and be as inclusive as possible. In other words, from 15 years of roaming around and speaking with people about the environment, particularly women, because we need more women involved. It gets more healthy that way. And there are several reasons for that. I don't want my true persona, to get in the way. My true persona enjoys, but I'm going to get to a really lovely point in a minute. My true persona enjoys notions like kairos, but also my true persona, and this is why I made the intro, even for me, the words, but the sublime is a bit too pretentious. But anyway, so I met a truly wonderful woman yesterday, and even if I never see her again, she's the first person ever we had a wonderful conversation about what the sublime might be. And she put in exactly what's been my predicament for 5 or 6 years, and I try to think about it and I try to write about it, and I gave her a very good example. But she put in, one has to be careful of well, not be careful, it implies, it matters what other people assume through encountering words. But she put in, that certain words have so much baggage. And a really good example is the word energy. All of the fake fucking witch doctor S's who've colonised from the cities. I used to say about myself, 28 years ago I came up here to get away from the witch doctoresses who you would encounter with their tarot cards, etc. Oh, so they pretend they're not after money, but they're just after money. In places like Fulham in London, the posh end of Fulham. But there was a certain kind of person, no, get away, that's the end of it. And it had been in London for 40 years, this kind of pretty dodgy transcendental monetising the transcendental. I mean, I like the transcendental, but it should never have anything to do with money, ever. And in fact, I don't think it even should be shared. I don't share my minor transcendentalness. Anyway, why is it Kairos? Because a little bit of initial communication with my 27-year-old grasshopper, meaning wonderful man, and he needs to take part in it. He wants to be a politician. But he's great. He understands it. He's a total Corbynite, but we can't use that word anymore. But he's dead with it. Very tech. He's too tech. But you see, will he get it? I think he will. When I speak to him soon and say, share with him, there is no more. Freedom is when that which one has been fighting for, an egalitarian, properly balanced society, is not possible. Now, when we come to the John Gray talk, blah, 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 okay, it's not going to be possible. It's just not going to be possible because apart from anything else, okay, you've got the neoliberal, you can call them what you want, technocratic, new Labour type of person who did take over 15, 20 years ago. But then the goodies, the more balanced people, they went and got lost in the melodrama and hysteria of thinking that terrible media like Novara Media, and I wanted them to succeed, but thinking they could ever have anything useful to say with the hyped up language of crisis and all these kinds of things. No, they failed to reach you. Anyway, yeah, all that matters to me, apart from the fact that amongst my various smatterings of bits of video here and there over 4 or 5 different identities, which I have to bring into one now. You see, that's the great liberation. That truly is. In fact, one person, although she didn't intend to, has somehow enabled that. I'm not going to. I don't have to. I'm going. But the fact that you can end up 3 months ago breaking down in that corner there and having a thought, oh my God, I mean, I've been broken down for quite a few years, like, oh, this is the end. And in actual fact, I've had the most wholesome period of my life. The various philosophical and societal concepts bubbling around in me for years, which I write about here and there and there and there, just to practice almost, just to try and bridge it with certain individuals who may be useful allies on 3 or 4 disparate sort of thrusts, but they're all the same. They're all the same. It's all about living more simply, lower footprint. If it turns out that the net effect of building lots of wind turbines in the North Sea is positive, meaning they do require a tremendous amount of energy in the construction of, and the because they're made there's a lot of copper in them. Okay, if the net effect of them is reduced emissions, then that's great. But then nobody tells anybody. I've been studying it for years. Nobody tells anybody. down on the amount of things plugged into your wall and remember to turn them off. I mean, I have to figure exactly how long my laptop's going to work. I have to have it in my head an hour before I turn it on, thinking, right, if I've got half an hour of battery, what's the most efficient use of that battery? And that goes across charging phones, etc., etc. And do you know what? Okay, initially, it's like, it feels like an existential swamp that you're going to drown in. But then after a while, you realise it's true liberty. It's truly good for you. Once you've got into certain habits, which even now, I've lived a year like this. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's so good for you once you get into those simplifying habits, and it frees you up for the real thought. Meaning, the second it looked like the Tories, was it a week ago? 10 days ago? The second it was like, Tories have just become unelectable. Literally the second I switch into, but could there be one thing useful to come out of this? Well, it's obvious. Next election, be that a year or 9 months, or it'll be the spring of 2024, the latest, because politicians like to have their elections in May and June. So, it means there's no argument about economic matters. They're all the same colour of grey, we can say. There should be an argument about environmental matters, but they'll all spin on that one way or another. And that's a big job. So, it's easy. There's never been a simpler, more kind of energising election to be. So, what's the one thing outstanding? Should Europe be chucked back in? And yeah, it's as simple as that. You're liberated, you're freed. Because in fact, 2017 and 19, it was a parallel matter of you had a genuinely egalitarian, sort of semi-socialist, or the great Bolivian political, the party has a great title, Movement Towards Socialism. I mean, they've had that title for 10 years. Actually, it's longer, isn't it? It's 17, 18 years. And it's not like they've turned the place into a commie. Yeah, but that's no longer on the table now. So there's only one card on the table. And, well, see my essay this morning, just zapped. You see, I am so happy with myself that I can get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and then in 10 minutes, just chuck out 2 paragraphs, just like that. I don't have time to think. I mean, it's the most wonderful training. This, having to have the habit of, I've only got half an hour, and it works. There was one thing I was going to say, I think, the reason I turned my camera on. Yeah, license. Now that I know there's one person who speaks about the sublime in the right way. Well, okay, that sounds like I'm a fascist, but speaks about the sublime, and like me, will say, well, the word magic. I mean, it is about magic, but the word, she said, the word magic's got too much baggage. Yes, and it's been too infantilized, and I mean, I study all the time, just whatever comes along. But I'm interested in the deeper, that sounds like I believe in lizards and things like that being in charge. Not at all. Okay, I'm interested in what is the true meaning of the word agnostic. And it is that we cannot really know, especially this year when quantum entanglement, spooky Einstein's been overturned, and this extraordinary thing has come along, which we've known about, but 3 physicists have been given the Nobel Prize in Physics for their combined work, or separate work actually, on that subject. That basically the moon, as we know, is 8 minutes away according to the speed is 8 light seconds away. Is it 8 light seconds? It doesn't matter. Even if it was 1 light second. Let's pretend it's 10 light seconds away. I think it's 8 light seconds away. Or is it 8 light minutes? No, it doesn't matter. 8 light seconds. Speed of light. Okay? It's so simple. So simple. That if I flip a coin here, this is what quantum entanglement is. It's just magnificent. If I flip a coin here, there's only heads and tails. Woo! So what? I'm rich. I'm the richest person in the world. I can afford to lose that. So we've got heads and tails. And the second this becomes tails or heads in my hand, let's see if I can do it in my left hand. Okay, the opposite happens on the moon. It's as simple as that. Oh, no, that's not very good. But anyway, so it's still, we got it. Right, it's tails. So already it would have had to have been heads on the moon before the 8 seconds occurred where the one on the moon could cheat. Well, it would have to be 16 seconds, I suppose. No, it wouldn't. The one on the moon might see, or somebody standing next to the coin on the moon might see through the super good telescope that was tails. They would put theirs to heads because the nature of particles is that to retain, to conserve angular momentum. See, I'm not a fucking troll. No, that's a word that's been stolen. It used to be a lovely word. I'm not a forest living tramp. Yeah, to retain angular momentum, there has to be the opposite force in the other entangled particle. Anyway, that's kind of it. Is that why I turn my camera on? I'm always happy, that's all that matters. No matter what. That's all that matters.